Hey guys, how y'all doing? Bioniclesaurus here, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at the 2018 Safari Ltd. Uintatherium. The first main thing to talk about with this figure is essentially a reiteration of what has already been discussed by David over at Spinodude Reviews. He talked about essentially the disparity and the differences in the way this thing looks between the promotional images, all in-hand images and videos around, and of course actually holding it in person. I have to agree with David in the sense that the initial promotional images were not overly impressive. I didn't think this figure was bad, I didn't really think anything of it. I pretty much just breezed past it and got distracted by an Ankylosaurus or something, you know? There were other figures that were far more impressive, and this one just didn't really stand out. And when I examined it in those initial images, I will admit that I was not overly impressed with the detail work, and the detail is one specific element that we will talk about in a bit here. But looking at David's review actually really turned me around on this thing, and looking at other people's in-hand photos and images of it, it looked a lot better. And I can't really put my finger on what it is, what the specific aspect of the figure is that looks so much better in like every image of it as opposed to the actual stock images. It's always a shame when like the actual promotional images that most people are going to see are like not the most flattering ones around. But I'm happy about it though. I'm happy that when I saw other pictures of this thing come out as people started getting it, that it was like a really pleasant surprise. And having it in person, I like it more than ever. So again, it's hard to explain exactly why. I think part of it is just a sort of non-specific general just, I like it more now, it's grown on me. But the detail is one specific element that we should touch on here. So the detail is not exactly better in person. Like the detail itself, the texture is not any finer or more complex. There's not any hidden sculpt work that doesn't come across in the promotional images. What you see there is pretty much what you get, but there's something about having it in hand. It made me realize how much more effective this was than what I had anticipated. Again, the detail doesn't exactly look better. It's not more detailed looking in person. It just, the detail and the skin texturing for what it is just, it works better. It does the job that it was intended to do a lot better than how I expected it to perform. It's always interesting when figures are, when they leave a very distinct impression from their initial images, and then when you see other imagery of them or have them in person, you see them in a totally new light. That was really the case with this one, and I'm so happy that I'm seeing it in a new light now. It's great when a figure turns out to be better than I was anticipating. That's like a really happy moment. So in terms of some other things, that's like the main thing to talk about with this. That's my main selling point for this figure, because I highly recommend this one, and the main thing I think you should all keep in mind is that, like, don't let the production images, if you weren't a fan of them, don't let that sway you, because, oh my goodness, this thing is such a well-done mammal figure, and having it in hand has made me realize that more than ever. But there are some specific points to talk about. The first one I really want to discuss is the believability of this figure. This thing fits in just fine with figures of modern animals. It looks very similar to a rhinoceros or a hippopotamus or an elephant in terms of its overall visual style. It looks so realistic, so convincing, so genuinely naturalistic, and that's a rarity with this specific genus. Uintatherium, to this day, is a prehistoric mammal that is all too often reconstructed in the world of paleoart in very exaggerated and monstrous ways. And it's so great to see a figure of it that looks so very realistic, that looks like a real natural animal in its habitat. It's not in an overly monstrous pose. I really like the pose. There's nothing exceptional about it, but it looks very fluid and very believable. It looks like it's moving in the way that a large herbivorous mammal would. One foot is being slightly raised, the back two are spaced apart a bit, so he's clearly not running, but just sort of walking around at a slow pace, perhaps searching the forest floor for food, or the plains for food. I don't know what habitat this thing lived in. I know it's from the Eocene. That's like the only thing I know about this animal. And that's interesting to me in itself, that like the Eocene is like the first Cenozoic epoch, I believe, and so it's not too long after the KT event, and this thing looks pretty big and pretty derived for something that ancient. I would say the head sculpt is one place where the slightly less complex, less carefully sculpted detail is a teensy bit distracting. It's very smooth. There's not much texture to the skin on the face, but it's really not that bad. And having it in person, I can't say it really detracts from the appearance all that much. And there's some great positives to the head sculpt as well. Mainly just the facial expression, the eyes. There's so much personality captured here. It looks so genuine, so convincing, so not inanimate. I've complimented Safari's mammals for this, and they've achieved this once again, this feeling of a real living animal, especially with the eyes and with the entire look of the face in general. I love the way that has turned out. Another thing to talk about real quick is the paint job. It's very simple, just 2 shades of paint for the most part, some gray and then some sort of burnt orange underneath. But it looks really good. They've got that sort of color temperature contrast going on again between warm and cool. I love when they utilize that. The Dimetrodon is like the prime example of that, and this figure does it well. And there's something about having it not just be gray, because it would have been really easy to just have it all be gray, but the fact that they added in a warmer color, it gives it a much more believable flesh and blood feel. Again, it adds to the lack of animateness in the appearance. Is animateness a word? Who cares? The point is, it adds to the realism. It makes it even more believable, more natural, and just, it adds a little bit of life. I will quickly now bring out some size comparisons. I have with me all the 2018 Safari Ltd mammals that we have reviewed thus far on the channel, and the Uintatherium. Uintatherium isn't a mammal. Spoiler alert. We have the Mastodon, the Macrocenia that I already brought in there, and also the Hyaenodon gigas. I wouldn't say this is my favorite. I think the Mastodon is still my favorite. Well, actually, there's another figure that might be my favorite, but we haven't reviewed it yet. We'll get to that one. Oh my god, it's blowing my mind, and I can't wait to talk about it. But for now, we're still on this figure, and in conclusion, this one is going to get an 8.5 out of 10, a solid B+. I really love this thing. There's something about it that's very just pleasant and attractive to look at. It's very naturalistic. It fits in well with the other mammal figures. And, oh gosh, I really have ended up liking this one a lot more than I expected to. And it's a really well done little figure. And it's so great to see a really, truly naturalistic reconstruction of what is a fairly iconic Cenozoic creature. Prehistoric, extinct Cenozoic creature, that is. If you would like to buy this gorgeous little Uintatherium or any of Safari Ltd's products, you can do so at www.safariltd.com or at amazon.com/SafariLtd. And I believe you can still use on their website specifically the coupon code BIONIC to get 10% off of any purchase. I am assuming that that code is still active, so go do that. Thank you very much for watching, and Bioniclesaurus signing out.